Okay, well, welcome. So in my video today, I'm going to talk about my Beta Quad. So this is not Betaflight, Beta as in B-E-A-T-E-R, something you can beat. I've got it here on the bench, so let me switch over to the bench camera and change the audio, and then we can take a closer look. Okay, so this is the Beta. So this is an Armaton Marmot 5-inch, and I love these Armaton frames because they are virtually indestructible, and if you do destroy them, there's also a warranty where they will replace the frame for you. So they're pretty confident in their frames, and I do like their frames. On my 3-inch, it got driven over and they still replaced the frame, which is amazing, really. So you can see I think it's 4mm carbon fibre here, and they call it space grade. So it's a pretty thick bottom plate. It has a titanium camera cage here, and then a thinner top plate. The other kind of nice-ish thing is got quite a low profile, so the battery on top sits quite low centre of gravity. But you can see there's not a lot of clearance here, so you just have to be a little bit careful in putting a stack in here. So this works pretty well. And the other thing is, so I've got a microcam mounted on here. One of the annoying things about the camera cage here is it's sized for a regular, I want to say micro, and maybe this is a nano cam, but the problem is that this is you can't buy the regular size cameras anymore. You only can buy these nano size cameras, and the fitting doesn't quite fit, and so you have to buy or print these little 3D printed supports here. And so I think, and I have a feeling these took ages to come. They came from the US or somewhere. So if you've got a 3D printer and you can print these in TPU or something, that's far better. As you can see, the mounting is set. One of the problems is that you get these sort of little U-shaped mountings, and the holes are set too far back, so the camera is too far back. If you try and just put a standoff in here, you can see the frame in the camera view. So you need this little mounting that pushes it forward a bit so that the camera is just in line with the cage. It's a super strong cage, so it's good for protecting the camera, but just a little bit of a pain there. And then the other nice thing about this frame is there's a little carbon fibre plate that goes on top of the camera cage, I think for mounting a GoPro, but I'm not going to use a GoPro on this. But it's great for mounting a GPS puck. I probably could have used a bigger one there as well, which would be nice. And the great thing about mounting a GPS puck here is it's well away from the magnetic interference of the motor wire, and also well away from the VTX interference, which can affect the GPS very badly. So magnetic interference can affect the compass, VTX interference can affect the GPS. One thing to say, I did discover I had these Joshua Bardwell cameras on here. Is this one of them? Yeah, this is one of them. Joshua Bardwell Phoenix 2. So it's a great camera. It looks great, but this one in particular had massive magnetic interference, like really bad. So the compass mounted on top of the camera would just get interference all the time, and it just made auto modes work really badly. So I switched to this RunCam Racer, and this seems to be a lot better. So I don't know whether I got a bad one or whether it's a design flaw, difficult to tell, but these RunCam Racers just are a lot better shielded. So that's really nice. And then the motors I've got mounted on here are T-Motor F40s, I think. So this is a 6S build, and these are, I can't quite read that, but I think it's 1350 kV. There is a higher kV for a 4S build, but 6S build is quite nice. And these are super powerful motors with 5-inch props. And then I've used race wire just to make the build a little cleaner. And the battery thing takes these sort of 6S blocks quite nicely, sits quite nicely. Obviously you've got to get the centre of gravity just so, and I've sort of found that these ones just mounted just behind the bolts here gets a nice centre of gravity. So let me take the lid off here and we can have a look inside. The other thing I like about this frame is that there's only 4 screws to take the top plate off, so you can take it off very easily, and it sits nicely and there's no sort of faffing around. Take the last screw off there. There we go. There we go, top plate off, and that's the battery strap. I'll put that on my 3D printer. And then inside you can see, well, you can see at the moment I've got mounted a Holybro Kahoot H7 V2, which is a new board that I'm just doing the port for. And then at the back, tricky to see, but at the back you can see I've got Tracer 69, so it's a combined VTX and RX solution, and I've got the RX comes onto an Immortal T on one of the arms, and then the VTX comes around the back here to a regular connection, and it's quite nice being able to clamp the aerial on here. It sort of gives easy access to everything. And then underneath you can see I've got a T-Motor F55 Pro 2, I want to say, and I think it's the F3 version, so F3 processors on it. The nice thing about this ESC, apart from it's super powerful, is it's got a little LED, and you can sort of mount it upside down, and then you get the LED just shows through this hole in the middle, which is just in the right place to show the LEDs. So it's quite a nice way of showing the RG Pilot, RG Copter LED signals without having to mount a separate LED. And then you can see I've just screwed on the Tracer 69 on the bottom here. So the reason I've built this way is because I want to, well, I want to be able to test things, crash them, so this is a pretty indestructible frame. And the other thing I want to do is test different flight controllers. So I want to do some comparisons of different flight controllers and see how they compare, particularly from the perspective of the IMU performance. So this one has a BMI 270, which is a Bosch sensor. And although I wrote the driver for that sensor, it's basically copied from Betaflight, so it's I don't have a lot of experience with that, and I don't think many people are flying with that, but it's more common now, so I think probably because they're more available than some of the InvenSense chips. So I've been sort of playing around with this. But where I started was with the SP Racing. So I started building this in order to test the SP Racing H7 Extreme that you can see there. And it was a little bit of a faff to wire it up, so I had to put some custom wires on it. And what I've tried to do is sort of make the connectors all DuPont based, so that you can basically just slide the connectors onto a standard pin. So I got that running and worked quite well, but then wanted to move to other things. And so the next one I tried was this Matek. This is the H743 Slim, and this is the V1. So quite nice. The Matek boards, they've got a completely bare top side, so you can mount all these pins, and they've made the pins a standard 2.54mm pitch, so you can just pop pins on there, and it takes an SD card. So these are great. These are great development boards and fly really well as well. So this is the V1, and you can see that it's, I think the IMUs are on this side. I think it's there and there, and the IMUs it's got are the MPU 6000 and the ICM 20602. The ICM 20602 is not great, but the MPU 6000 works pretty well, so I've done most of the flying with that. And I've actually mounted and flown this, so it mounts like that. Had to do a little bit, you can see I've sort of mounted it backwards because of the way the pins come out, so I had to sort of configure that, but it mounts quite nicely there. And I'll show you some graphs for this in a second. And then more recently what I've been trying is this board, which looks very similar. So this is the Matek H743 Slim V3, and this has got two. I didn't catch that. Could you try? Two new sensors on, both from InvenSense. The ICM 42688, which is a great sensor, really great configuration options, low noise, very fast, and then the ICM 42605, which is again pretty good, but at least as good as the MPU 6000, but not as good as the 42688. So it's got those two sensors on, and I've been making some changes to the drivers to support faster gyro rates for those two sensors, which works quite well. So that flew really well, and then I've been flying this a little bit and had a bit of a wobble yesterday, and when I chatted to Leonard about it, he says there's high frequency noise coming through, so I'm not sure what's causing that. It may be that you can see these little standoffs, the little gummies are a bit compressed, and they're slightly harder rubber than the others, so I might replace those for the kind of thing that the Matek board is using. So the Matek board is using these much softer kind of silicon grommets, and they're also slightly lower profile, which is better for this board, so I had to squash these to get them in, and I think actually the lower profile board might work well. And then just final thing to say is, so in mounting this, I don't know whether you can see there, but the ESC, I've used little half nuts on top and bottom just so that I get some clearance at the top. I had to use longer bolts than the ones that get shipped with this board, just to give me a little bit more clearance. I can't remember the height. And then I use little half nuts top and bottom, which just about work from a clearance perspective, but still leave me with a chunk of space for putting the flight controller. And then there's a nice amount of space on top for the battery strap, so the battery strap sits about there. So that's the setup. So let me just show you some of the noise profiles on these chips. All right, so this is from the Matek H743 V1, and you can see I'm using the tool MAV-FFT ISB with a log that I got previously. So this is a nice little tool in PyMavLink, which I tend to use. I modified quite a bit to make these graphs appear nicely. And you can see I've used I've just provided the log name as an argument to this. So what we can see here is, and I've also got pre and post filtering on, so we can see the gyros pre-filtering and post-filtering. And a couple of things to note is, one is this massive X spike on the pre-filtering around 235 Hertz. And this must be frame resonance. So what I found was when I tried to increase the gyro filter, the motors started getting very hot, and I thought that's quite odd, because usually you can increase the gyro filter quite significantly, and the notch filters will take care of all of the motor noise. And what I twigged was that actually there's this massive frame resonance at 235, and of course once you sort of throttle up, the notch filter doesn't take these out unless you've specifically set for this frequency. So that's what I did. I specifically set for that frequency. And you can see that's what this big dip here is in the post filter log. You can see there's a big dip again at sort of 235 Hertz, which is the static notch I set up. And then also there's another one at 465. So this is the third harmonic of that static notch. So I found that this wasn't actually necessary in later flights. It's only really the first harmonic that counts, and you can kind of see that here. So there's this massive frame resonance at 235. There's not really anything at 435 or 465 or whatever. So just a single harmonic on this static notch. It's good. And then the other nice thing you can see is just this good drop off of the frequencies of the noise around as we go up the frequency band. And you can see also that I'm running the gyros at 400 kilohertz. Sorry, not 400, 4 kilohertz. So this means that the FFT can only show up to 2 kilohertz, so half of the sample rate, which is the Nyquist frequency. So I'm running at 4 kilohertz because you can't really see it here, but because these are 3-blade props, you kind of get a spike at the motor RPM, and this can go up to at least 500 Hertz motor RPM, and then you get another spike at 3 times the motor RPM, which is the 3-blade props, and so on this that would be 1500 Hertz. And if I was running at a lower filter rate, say 2 kilohertz, I wouldn't be able to filter this out. I would get folding. So I'm running at 4 kilohertz. It's an H7, and 4 kilohertz seems to work quite well for IMUs. That's probably about the limit on an H7. 8 kilohertz, probably too fast. As you can see, it looks pretty good. It's a nice noise profile. And this is the MPU 6000. We know the MPU 6000 is low noise, so all good. So then I've got a graph from the V3. So if we go to the V3, and if I pull up a log, and let's try 168, should be okay. Wrong one. I forget the motor order of these. Let's try that again. I want gyro 0 and gyro 2 because I'm using the first IMU. So not gyro 1. Let's not look at the accels. So gyro 2 and gyro 0. Choose this one. Down a bit here. And so what you can see is you can still see this resonant peak. So this is the ICM 42688. Still see this resonant peak. A bit more noise going on here. Then they have a notch filter on this IMU, which must be some resonant frequency of the IMU itself. So that's what you can see there, and then sort of tracking away. And on this, you can see that the noise falls off pretty well as well. Perhaps not quite as good as the MPU 6000, but still pretty clear. You can see I've only got one static notch now. I've taken out the other one. The other thing about the static notch here is it seems to be a little bit too narrow, so it's just missed this little spike. See this little spike to the right of the 235, and so I think the static notch needs to just be slightly wider to take out that spike. But apart from that, it's a good noise profile. It looks good. There's nothing obviously wrong going on, and I'm pretty pleased with that, and it seems to fly pretty well as well, so that is great. And then the final thing to show you is the Kakut H7, and I'm sort of a bit earlier in the testing of this, but if we look at this, this is the BMI 270, and what you can see is, so you can see very clearly the, this hover frequency, and then 3 times the hover frequency for the 3 bode plops. You can see the resonant frequency, which actually seems a bit wider on this copter, and then actually it looks to me like there's a second harmonic, so I might need to kill the second harmonic on this one. And then on the filtered side, you can see that the static notch hasn't killed the noise either side particularly well, and also the harmonic notch is still a little bit of a hump here, and that means that noise is leaking through for the harmonic notch. So I think the harmonic notch needs to go a little wider, as does the static notch, and maybe I need to add in the second harmonic here. It's still not bad, but it's a little bit too much noise, and what I had some control issues yesterday, and I think that's because of too much noise leaking through. And yeah, some more work to do there, more work tuning. And I think one of the things this demonstrates is that both the IMU and the mounting can make quite a significant difference to the noise. So I think the other problem is the mounting is a little bit too squashed on this copter, and as I said earlier, and if I change the mounting, that might just reduce the noise a little bit. So I'm going to try that, and I'm also going to try making these notches a little wider. So thanks for watching. That is my beta, and I will be trying some more boards on this in the future. So I'll let you know how I get on. I will probably also post the configuration settings for all of these boards for this copter, just in case you want to build something similar. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.